Hi everybody, welcome out to the Dice Tower. My name is Chris Yee, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a game that's more or less 10 years old now. This is a worker placement game called Maquis. This is a solo-only historical game that was first available 10 years ago, if memory serves correctly, just as a digital print and play. One that you could print yourself and have on paper and everything, or if you wanted to try to print it out nicer. And after it kind of caught on as being a really intriguing game, it's been printed a few different times. It also has had a digital app, and that's what I played for years. As I said, this game has been around for a long time. I played the Android app, which at the time was free, and it might still be available. I'm not exactly sure, and that kind of depends on when you watch this video. And in that, you're trying to complete these 2 objectives, and there's 4 mission cards that you can pick from. So in the printed box here, which I picked up just a few months ago at Dice Tower West, I was able to play this game physically for the first time. I was able to go through and have many more missions and objectives to try to accomplish, which was very exciting for me. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this one plays, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. Here's a setup of the game of Maquis. This is a solo game that takes place over up to 15 rounds, and you are trying to complete these 2 objectives before the rounds end. If all of your workers are arrested, if you reach the end of the game without accomplishing the objectives, or if you allow the morale to fall to 0, you will lose the game. However, if you are able to complete all steps of these objectives here, then you will be the winner, and you have to complete both of them, sometimes delivering specific types of resources and accomplishing different types of goals on here. On a turn, you're going to take one of your workers and place it out onto a spot, and then you'll reveal a patrol card. At the start of the game, 3 patrol will come out. So the first patrol is going to come out here, and it will follow the priority of these locations according to the patrol card that's flipped over. In this case, the Maquis police officer is going to go to the grocer, but you'll notice that you already placed a worker there, so it's going to go to the next priority space instead, and it's going to go over here to the poor district. Then it's our turn again, and we can put this worker out anywhere that we want onto the board. Let's say that I wanted to be really bold and go up here and work on the sabotage mission. If I flip over the next patrol card, and you see that its priority is to go to the fence, this worker is now cut off from a safe passage back to the safe house. Therefore, he will be arrested by the end of this turn. And after you reveal all of these cards here, Paul Luvic, so this is going to be the situation here. You can resolve your workers now at this point, and then anyone that's not able to come back to the safe house would be arrested. However, you can gain these tokens. You can spend tokens over in these areas to hire more of these resistance Maquis, and the ones who are arrested are removed from the game. A few other little features of the game: as you get weapons, you can choose to kill one of these police officers and remove them from the game. However, you then move up on the soldier track, lose morale, and now one of the patrols will be replaced by a Nazi soldier instead of the Maquis police officers. These ones, if you reveal a location where you already have a person out, will simply immediately arrest that person, and that's going to make it harder for you to win the game. There are certain spots over here on the board where you can build new types of buildings. So you could build a safe house, maybe across the river district, or you can make a place where you can get explosives, which will be important to complete missions that require those types of things. If you complete 2 missions before the end of the game, you will win. If you fail at morale, reach the end of the game without completing the objectives, or if all of your Maquis are arrested, then you'll lose the game. Now, as I mentioned, Maquis is a solo-only game, and I feel like 10 years ago this was not a rarity. Of course, solo wargaming and historical gaming has existed for a long time, but you would see a game like this get a little bit less attention. And I'm really glad that this game has kind of stood the test of time. 10 years is a very long time in our very cult of the new kind of mindset for games. So this one is impressive to me because it focuses on that solo experience. It makes it a way that's very simple. It has a fairly clean rule set. There's some intricacies to what's going on. You have to remember every time the soldier track moves up that you also lose a morale, and morale also gets triggered on certain days, those orange days of the calendar track on the side of the board. There's those things that you have to balance. There's a lot going on, and 15 days might seem like a lot at first, but as soon as you realize I really need to get cranking on these missions, and I haven't done any, I'm 7 days into this 15-day game so far, it starts to put pressure on you. This is really impressive. It's really clean, and I like that about this. It takes up a very small footprint on the table. We talk about a lot of games that are table hogs, and someone jokingly said to me, like, well, what's the opposite of that? Games that do a lot, but have very little table presence, table gerbils, maybe, right? This is a table gerbil, and I mean that in the best way possible. The board is small, but it's really well made. I love the art. I love the artistic direction that this game has, a nice sense of minimalism and yet some good character to it. And I love the fact that the board itself is dual layer. For being a small production that's kind of a niche little game, his solo historical war-themed game like this has really fantastic production. The meeples, the shape of the cut wood, is all really nice. Everything about this feels deluxe. And of course, it's not the cheapest price point, even though it is a small box, but I think that a lot of care and a lot of thought went into the game design, the physical production, the box size not being too big or too overwhelming. It's just the right size that I want it to be. It's something I can set up fairly quickly in front of me and just start playing, and I love that. The box has about a half-hour playtime. That's if you're not losing really badly, because you can. You can lose horrifically pretty quick in this game, and that's okay because then you just set it up and try again. I like that there are lots of different missions in here. I like that they come in this little tuck box. The mission cards, the patrol cards, everything has a place in the insert of this box. I think, like I said, I meticulously made and just designed in its physical form to be very welcoming to play. That's one of my favorite things in solo games, is when a game is quick to set up, easy to pull out, and you just dive into it. You had a bad round, shuffle up and we can start playing again. I really do appreciate it about this. The missions are very impressive to me, because playing this game in the app, I realized that the two starting missions they recommend that you do in the app, I think are the 2-star missions, and there's 0-star, which are the easiest, 1 and 2-star. And I believe that this is the second edition of the game, because it now came with 3-star missions, which are much more difficult, and they have some kind of optional difficulty within that, and I'll talk about that here in a second. The difference between playing a 0-star mission, a 1-star, and a 2-star mission in this game is very noticeable. It's so hard to win in the digital version. It took me dozens and dozens of plays. And then you start to get the rhythm and you start understanding how the game works, how the patrol cards work, that there is a certain amount of luck but predictability to how the patrols come out. There's actually a chart in the rulebook that shows you what all of the possible patrol card combinations are, so you know when things are getting riskier and when they're not. This is so phenomenally great to me. The scaling of the game has a few different factors too, which I really like. When you go to those radio towers and you call for supplies, you can increase the difficulty of the game or decrease the difficulty of the game by just allowing more or fewer resources to drop when you do that. And that is independent of playing harder missions that require more of you and more planning of you. So you can play the game on a slightly easier level, but be having more difficult things you're trying to aim to accomplish by the game's end. And I really like that. The fact that there are multiple sliders on the soundboard of difficulty for this game make it really customizable of an experience for you. If you want to get a lot, but try to also accomplish a lot, you can kind of fine-tune those settings to do that. You want to play on what video games would call like Insanity Legendary mode, you can dial both of those difficulty dials straight up to the top. You do that, I'm not going to, because I like the fact that this game at its base level is winnable, but difficult, and you're probably going to lose most of the time, especially if you don't know the ebb and the flow of the game yet, and you try to go for some slightly more difficult objectives. You could also very likely lose your first few games until you kind of figure out the cycle of the game. By going for those 0-star objectives, you start to figure out, oh, okay, I need to build these specialty buildings in order to get that, or is it worth investing in the safe house so I can have a second safe house with which to draw lines back to keep my people from getting arrested? But also, how often do I get more workers in the game? Because if I get out more workers, then I have to have more patrol come out. There's so much that's good about this. I really, really do recommend this one a lot. If what I've said here has intrigued you whatsoever, I think that you'll have a great time with this one. There's also, I want to make a small note, the 3-star objective cards have a have a major victory and a minor victory, which I think that that's a more recent addition to this game. If I'm mistaken, let me know, of course, in the comments. But I love that. I love the fact that you can win and maybe have a smaller victory that you historically, thematically, what you've done is you've had a successful resistance, but it hasn't really made as big a dent in the Nazi occupation of France. And I like that idea. Another game about Maquis resistance fighters that came out recently, Resist from Salt and Pepper Games, had a similar type of thing going on there. So I think that this one is going to show its age a little bit more. I think that people have figured out that there are some really cool ways that you can develop solo games and such. That this one shows its age but doesn't feel old. It feels classic in that way. So in terms of a score, I would give this one an 8.5. I really would. I think the production is phenomenal. I think that the sliding scale of difficulty makes up for the fact that sometimes you just have a really bum game. And the fact that it's so easy to just try again. You could get burnt out on this one, right? I think that despite all of the customization, the changing the missions, you could say, I got the core loop of this down. But you put it away for a month or 2 or 6, and you come back to it, and the rules are so simple enough that you say, yeah, let's play this one again. And I'm really happy that I've been able to do that. So 8.5 from me, a seal of excellence, because I think this is straight up an excellent game. Thanks for coming to this Dice Tower Rewind, taking a look at a slightly older game, talking about something that's not just the newest hotness, but something I do think that you should check out, and I'm glad that you've been able to listen to my thoughts, at least for a little bit about it. Thanks for coming by. My name is Chris Yee. Have yourselves a fantastic day.